Hello everyone, thank you for tuning into my channel for this new tutorial. Today we're going to cover aspects inside After Effects to create animation sliders. We are also going to integrate Illustrator, Photoshop, and After Effects to effectively review techniques for breaking apart and joining back elements for animation. What is a slider animation anyways? Well, if you have the faculty to take break elements from your design or your character, in this case a 2D character such as this one that we have right here, we have created it in Adobe Illustrator from an illustration, and we want to animate vectors that are created inside Illustrator to take them back inside After Effects. And why do we want to do this for? Well, this character right here has the ability to move the wings, but we're not going to animate every single frame of the wings. Instead, we're going to just create a neutral pose for them, and then we're going to scale them so that it gives the illusion of animation. So now that we have broken apart our element, I'm going to show you exactly which parts are composing this specific character. So here is the entire body, you can see it right there, and I have set apart many body pieces, which in this case are the tight, the chest, the head, the first arm, the hand, and the second arm. So if we view this all together, we already have our character there. Now we're going to apply a technique that when we record, when we save this file, we can import it back into After Effects so that it will maintain their order for us to composite it and animate it with our sliders, with our animation sliders. Now I want to show you what the progress of this would look like once we get this back. Okay, so Photoshop will export the PSD files as a composition. Right here we have the original file, which is the body, and then in here we switch back to the option where it says composition. This composition will allow us to bring all the body parts exactly as we had them on the layer order inside Photoshop. So here we click some more options, and then we have the original character inside our composition, and all the body parts fit exactly where they belong. In addition, what we need to do right now is to set the pivot point of every joint to their respective places so that animation will not look odd. So right now we're going to set the pivot point of the knee exactly on the knee. Next, we test try this. We can see that there's a breaking point on them. So this is important to take notice because wherever you position your pivot point, it will affect your entire composition. So pivot point is a crucial part to make break apart animation believable. So now I'm going for the chest. The pivot point must be placed correctly. Also for the head, which is in this case the neck as the pivot point. We can see that already, it's in place. Now we're going for the first arm. Oops, I'm sorry, this is yes, that's the pivot point tool. You always select that to move your pivot, and I'm going to place this here so that she can move the hand correctly. And finally we get the second pivot point and the last pivot point to the arm, and you can see that there is a point where the arm no longer belongs inside the body, so you make sure you can compose that correctly. Alright, so I already have prepared a finished composite, also bringing the illustrated files and placing them accordingly over the eyes and the pupils, so that you could also have a movement on the eyes. So right now, what are we going to do? Well, we need to parent these layers to their respective body parts. So if you move the torso, you need also to move the head and the arms, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're taking this whiplash and parenting it to the head. So now that when we move, the tight. So when we move the tights, the legs will also follow. We're going to do the same with the arms, parenting them into the torso, so that when we move the torso, when we rotate that, right there, the arms will follow. Whoops, that head is flying. We also need to parent the head with the torso. Right there, it's the head. Take the whip and just like that, now your torso will rotate and the upper body parts will rotate as well, including the wings. Alright, perfect. And now that we have this all together, you can save that. And let's start the real fun. So this is where we apply what I believe it's After Effects, one of the most prominent features. You can assignate sliders to control rotations for the body parts. Here I have already set a slider to show you what we are aiming to. In this case, I can set a slider assigned to a layer, which in turn will affect their rotation. So we're going to do this from scratch. Now that we have our character composed, we need to assign the layers to the sliders. But for this, you say, well, we need to code some of that so that the slider will respond. Well, that's true actually, but After Effects offers you a way so that you can do it without knowing any code, and I'll show you that in just a second. So I have created here a null object which doesn't have anything, a null object just so that it will contain our sliders for animation. It's right there, slider control. So these are named characters slider animation, and inside of that empty null, which is not going to be moving at all, I'm just going to place every slider that I need to create to control and animate the body. In this case, I'm creating a slider for the legs, which are called legs underscore controls. So this is where I need to somehow join my sliders and the rotation of the layer which contains the legs. So I'm going to right click on the slider and edit its values with the lowest and the highest. I have already checked that -20 and 20, positive 20, are the range of the rotations that I would like to give to the legs. So I set that to 0. Let's save that again, and now I'm going to undock this panel and connect it to my rotations on the leg. So I press R to invoke rotations, and I have them right there. And this was already affected by the previous uh, slider that I put right there. So I'm testing how far the legs should really move and rotate. So I'm undocking the panel right now, and I'm going to whiplash to set an expression on the appropriate slider. To do that, on the parameter I would like to affect, I press Alter and then click. When I do that, new icons arise. I get an expression, a neutral expression there, but I also get my whip. If you take notice, this one you will drag all the way to your slider, the one that you just updated the values to rotate with, and when you let go, your entire programming, your entire code will automatically appear in the affected layer. And since we're affecting the rotation of the layer legs, that is already updated to the source code inside After Effects, so that your slider will now drive the rotation of your legs. Isn't that amazing? Now we're going to repeat the same process with every other body part that we would like to get animated, including, in this example, the eyes and the wings. Alright, we're back. So I set controllers, slider controllers, for almost every part of the body of this character, including the wings. So we have controllers for the leg, the head, the arm, and also the hand. And you see them all inside our null layer. So I'm finishing here for the layer of the hand, so we can watch that move. And the good part about this is that you can dock back your original composition for the composite character. This you're watching right here, it's the animation of the layer of the wings. So what I did here was just scale this value, open up the graph editor. See, and you're going to see a bunch of keyframes right here. But I opened the graph editor, just made but a few changes. That's one mountain and one valley for the keyframes. Copied them all as such, and then pasted. And this will also let me drag, so I can adjust the time. In this case, the speed of the wings will accelerate, and in this case, it will take much more time to go back to the original size. So I did a scaling for this, and the wings will look like they are flapping. Alright, so we are going to test this. Yep. And now we're going to animate this. The real fun stuff starts now, because I can now set keyframes for the animation for all body parts. Since I have already prepared all my material, composed apart this character, joined it back together inside After Effects, and assigned coded sliders to drive specific rotations for their parts. So right there, I'm setting quick tests, see, for the legs movements, and it's working. It's working fine. I can see the keyframes right there. So in all, I can now animate my entire character, create this as a whole composition, and then make that composition move around the stage. You can even go inside that composition and animate your character inside the specific stage. And since these are slider controlled animation, you can always go back and erase every keyframe you want, and you can have your character be animated in some other way that you need. Also, another advantage is that while this is a slider control, you could also have presets of animation being saved so that the animation will apply every time you need it. So you can also create libraries for your preset animation to the sliders. So there we have it. Character animation with slider controls inside After Effects. Thank you for watching, and I hope you like this tutorial.